Welcome, everybody. Today is December 5th. It's 7:04 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Rose, if you can take note.
Yes.
Happy holidays, everybody. Hope you had a nice Thanksgiving and looking forward to Christmas and Hanukkah and everything. Patty's not going to be with us tonight. Hopefully her son's surgery went well, but we do have a quorum, so we'll be able to continue forward without her. I appreciate everybody checking in when Kurt sent out the message, letting us know that you could be here because it gets very important when we have one person out. Once we get to two people out, we frequently postpone the meeting
Well, we lose a quorum, so we have to have 3 out of 5
in order to get the
be
votes
legal
through.
meeting. Yeah.
Yep. So tonight, have you guys had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
I didn't get them. I looked on all the stuff. I sent Kurt an email saying I didn't receive them.
Oh, I sent them out last night, late. Oh, I see. You sent an email at 6:43.
Yeah, because I went through all the stuff earlier, I printed it out and I didn't. I went through, I had a couple of emails from you and I went through both of them. One of them had a duplicate of the finance number, so I think maybe that was supposed.
Oh, maybe I did that twice.
Look at that. I've got the same thing. Yep.
Then hang on a sec. Let me hit cancel. So Fred, Brian, and I printed out some of the minutes. Printed out all the paperwork for Jim, so he's got them in his hands. And Rose, you just attach them. Hello, where'd they go? Okay.
It's a nice effect, Mark, there when you have the Northern Lights. When you look up like that, it looks like you're really enjoying
it. Looks like you're about to disappear into the night.
I have a 30-inch monitor behind my laptop, so I'm doing some circuit board design while we're speaking.
Multitasking.
Yes.
We appreciate you coming out for the meetings. Thank you.
Okay, so I've just sent them to everybody. I'll give you a chance to make sure they're working. I mean, you read them and whatever.
I minimize this. Whoops. Whoops, I can't do that.
Right.
Did you find them?
I didn't get them. Oh, I'm looking at my.
So I sent them to your, not the WMNR email, Fred.
My regular email.
But to your F. Velarde Charter email.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
4 pages. Rose really gave us our money's worth.
Did you get it yet, Brian?
I did.
I only asked because last night I was having trouble with my Gmail from the because I'm on a laptop that uses the not always right now so great Wi-Fi connection. So good, Brian got them.
But I'll have to call you back tomorrow after I read them all.
Yeah, I still haven't received anything. So let me click on check mail.
Well, technically, according to State Freedom of Information, you don't have to approve them tonight. We had to get them in within 7 days of the meeting, but they don't talk about when they're approved. So if we have to, the next meeting we can approve 2 sets of minutes.
Is it allowed for us to review them on our private time and respond back in approval, or is that not allowed?
Well, then it's not an official meeting. It has to occur during an official meeting when there's an official vote. Because you might have a discussion about the meeting or make corrections. So you can't approve them until there's an official meeting. Could hold a special meeting to approve them, but why waste everybody's time for that? You can wait till the next one. Hang on, you said Jane's here?
Jane.
Hey, there she is. Hi, Jane.
Hello,
Hello.
gentlemen and Rose.
Hi, Jane.
We're just going over the minutes. Those of us that have it, I guess that's me. Fred, did you
Jim's
end
got
up?
a copy.
No, I'm still looking. I didn't get them.
And Jim,
Fred
you
did.
have a hard copy already?
Yes, I got all.
Yeah, I printed them out for Jim.
Yeah, they're all right here.
Jim's in the lobby, Jane, on a laptop.
Ah, good. I thought I recognized those lights that Mark installed.
Well, they're a little different. I shut off all the fluorescents. So technically, Brian, if you have them and Jim has them, if two of you voted to approve them and Fred abstained because he hasn't seen them, then the meetings are still approved because the majority of the quorum has approved the minutes. Fred could vote, could say not voting, or Fred would abstain from voting since he hasn't read them.
Gotcha. It was going to try it.
Jane, Rose does such a great job at taking them, and I did. She has me take a look at them before they get sent into the town clerk for posting. So they're pretty good. They're very good, actually.
I am.
I just sent them to you again, Fred, just in case that coming from me
Okay.
would be better.
I have my email open here, and I'll just.
We're sending them to your charter one, Fred.
Yeah, that's the one I have open.
Right.
And as usual, charter is right on top of things here. Oh. Why am I? No, I can't get back to the meeting. What do I need to click on here?
Oh, down in the bottom, along,
Well, he's
there
lost
should be
his
a Zoom.
window. Yeah.
Zoom.
Are you on a Windows or an Apple computer, Fred?
Oh,
Are you using a Mac or a Windows machine right now, Fred?
it's a Dell.
All right, hit the Alt Tab key on the keyboard.
That's 2 keys.
All right.
Right.
Where's my tab?
It's to the left
Just
hand
above
side.
the caps lock.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oops, I had it for a second.
You can keep tapping it and it'll keep changing what comes up as the primary window.
Yeah, I got. Brian, that's all.
You back to Zoom yet, Fred?
No, I just have the word Zoom. And I tried that.
So you press and hold Alt and you press and hold Tab and let go, right?
Yeah.
All I have is Mark.
You
Well,
see,
that's a start.
all right, you see me, then click on that window. They should see a button that says view. Click view, and then you can.
In the upper
Change-
right hand corner, it might not show up until you move the mouse over by it. There's a view button. It'll bring back up the whole Brady Bunch.
Oh,
Yeah, if you choose gallery, it's the Brady Bunch view.
So yeah, you want to click in the upper right-hand corner where there are the dots and change from speaker view to gallery view.
no, I'm not getting anything. Oh, there we go. There you are. Oh, Jane, no way.
Yeah, and you know what we
Can't
mean
touch
by the
anything
Brady
else
Bunch.
now. I'm already off the air.
Great. So if you're willing to just vote abstain, Fred, then those who have read the minutes can vote for them in the affirmative, and assuming there aren't any changes that they'd like to suggest to make. But Rose does very good minutes, and
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
How
Okay.
does that sound, Brian?
I'm great with it. I just reviewed it myself. I didn't see anything that was an issue. I also agree that Rose does an awesome job. So I'm happy to approve it from my angle. And Jim, you've already gone through.
Then you need to hold a vote.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like a pre-vote
We're
check.
talking first. Yeah, right.
Yep. So great.
Have you had a chance to review them, Jim?
Yes, well, I have it on my cell phone, so when you handed it out last night, so I was able to see it on my cell phone.
Oh, you did? Okay. Great. So then you want to hold a vote, Brian?
As a motion or just straight vote?
Well, we could technically do a motion and then a vote.
Well, I guess there's nobody to review it. Excuse me. Yeah, let's just take a vote then. Everybody who's had an opportunity to read the minutes from last meeting and sees no problem with it, I'd like to approve those minutes by saying aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And Fred, you're going to abstain in the
I'm
vote?
not abstaining, yeah, because I haven't seen them, but I abstain, but
Great. Minutes accepted as presented.
Great.
Thank you very
And I'm
kindly
sure
for walking
Rose
us
will-
through that, Kurt.
I'm sure Rose will note that he abstained because he hasn't read them, not because he has any problem.
that's right. I object to anything that Rose does.
That's some power you got there, Rose. All right, moving on to section B, WRXC, return to normal power on September 22nd. Kirk, would you care to expand?
Actually, so General Manager's Report 3A is the revenue report.
Ah,
I'm sorry, I'm fumbling. Yes, you're correct.
So there's a one-page revenue report. It doesn't show expenses. On November 15th, we unexpectedly lost our bookkeeper. And while we do have Sue Adams, who did it for 8 years, stepping in temporarily, and we'll be doing some interviews this next week. Right now, I could get an income report, which frankly is the most crucial thing because for the most part, except for a few special projects, our expenses are very consistent from month to month. So it's really the income of that, of course, is the thing to take a look at. So I showed that the dollar amount that had been received by July 1 to November 30th, and then I showed what the budgeted was. You'll see at the bottom that so far we've received 40% of the income for the year, and you consider that these 5 months are 5/12 of the year, or 41% of the year. That works out pretty closely. So these numbers do include that we got our first check from the Corporation on Public Broadcasting. So that's there under grants, unrestricted and restricted. We'll get the balance of it in late February or early March, 60% of the grant. that they send us gotten already. But otherwise, we're in good shape. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I don't this time.
Great. Just so there's a record in the minutes that that you've reviewed the minutes. If you could, I didn't put it in financial report that there would be a vote, potential vote. But if you would like to vote to accept them, that would just show on the record that you looked at them.
Great.
I'll make them. Fred will already commission member. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, I say we accept the financial report as submitted by Kurt. I make a motion to do
Jim,
that.
can you second that?
I second the motion.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Showing all three members in favor
That's
and passing the budget figures as presented.
Yeah. Calling it a revenue report because normally
Revenue
a financial
report.
report includes expenses, and this one doesn't have that.
Thank you.
That in rows. Okay.
Excellent. Moving on.
Yes. So WRXC returned to normal power on September 22nd. It was operating at reduced coverage, reduced power with a backup antenna, but and we're glad to have it back. It covers a big area, though we don't have tons of listeners to it. It still covers a big area, and that's B. C is 94.5 FM Sag Harbor. I'll take it off the air by the end of the month because I need to move it to a different site, and we need to get it off the tower that it's on now. So we'll be mailing out a postcard letting everybody in Long Island know of the existing frequencies that they could listen to us on. 94.5 and 100.3 are on the same tower, so they'll still get coverage from 100.3.
And that's the tower in New York, was it?
It's a tower near Sag Harbor.
Sag Harbor.
Now, does New London, does that feed off of that? 94.5?
No, there's three 94.5s, one in Old Saybrook, one in New London, and one in Sag Harbor. And they all pick up WGRS Guilford.
Oh, that goes to Guilford. Okay.
They all pick up and rebroadcast Guilford. So
Great. Moving on.
yes, so I'm hoping to get paperwork signed, an application filed to move the 94.5 Old Saybrook to a new frequency in early 2024. And it'll be easy to do. I already have an antenna mounted that covers all frequencies, and so we'll just have to do another postcard a couple weeks in advance, let everybody know that it'll be changing. We'll do a few on-air announcements, and then I'll go out there and just simply change the setting on the transmitter, and 10 minutes it'll be back on the air in a new frequency. Because years ago, I knew this was going to happen, and years ago, when there was some work being done on the cell tower in Old Saybrook, I had a backup antenna that works all frequencies installed, so we're all set to go for this changing that in early 2024. By the way, yeah.
Great.
Go ahead.
No, I guess just moving on.
Yeah.
Unless anybody has any questions. No. So talking about aviation lights at the Stepney Tower?
Yes, the new LED aviation lights are installed but not operational. They were tested, but they're not operational. We have to file some paperwork with the FCC, and the engineer who's going to do that is going to be busy. We'll have time, hopefully, by the end of December. After we get the paperwork filed, allowing us to use the new lights, which are a slightly different type, and then we'll have the climbing crew back, and they'll take the old lights down. The one thing I'm going to do is go into the other office. I should. I can do a screen share to show you what it looks like. I've got a wonderful picture that the guy took at the top. It shows both the new one and the old one. Okay, let's see. Let me find out what I want to have brought up first here. Where did I put the laptop? So you could, it'll be does a great job of see as soon as I find it. Here it is, I think. Yep, here we go. Large it.
Lost the video on Jim, I guess.
I can see you all and hear you.
Maybe he muted the video.
No, I can still see you guys. So anyway, I'm going to show you what it looks like. With the top, the two lights look at the top of the tower. So the old one is the red one. That actually has two 600-watt bulbs, one pointing down, the other pointing up. That way, if one bulb goes out, the other's still working. Next to it, the white flat thing, that's the new LED. Now, both the old light, glass light with the two 600-watt bulbs has a Fresnel lens. And even the new one on the left, the LEDs are back in the center, away from, and there is still a Fresnel lens in there that helps focus the light and sends it to the horizon. Normally, the red light sits on all 4 bolts on the top. He's got it hanging on only 2 bolts, so he'd have room to hang the LED light on 2 bolts. And when and when he takes the red one down, then he'll be able to move the white one over, so it's on all 4 bolts. There is a lightning rod that pokes up through all this. I just photoshopped it out because people might be confused what it is. At Stepney Elementary School down at the bottom, the roof of Stepney Elementary School, particularly the addition. Well, you may not know, but yes, the addition's down there on the left. Behind the tower is the auditorium, which is the most recent addition. But obviously it was a nice day when they took the picture.
That's a great photo.
So they flash white during the day, and then they'll be flashing red at night.
Interesting. Well, I'll have to tell you if we notice a difference. We fly up from the background of that shot from Bridgeport, Stratford. I come up, I look for the tower, and then I know that my house is just beyond it on the left.
Yeah. Well, now, especially when it's flashing white bright during the day, you would notice it in a plane ride. So, Jim, can you see us? We just can't see you, right?
I can see all you guys. I can hear you. Yep.
Great. Well, that's all that matters. I won't run back in there and turn your video camera back on. Right. So that's what that's all about the aviation lights.
It doesn't look that hard to change. We should be able to change that ourselves, no?
Well, you know, you have to have a climber that's climbing with OSHA-approved pattern, and there has to be a backup climber who's trained to do rescue of the primary climber. Because when guys get on trouble on towers, they can't send in the firemen. You know, the ladders, the buckets don't go high enough. They're not trained for that sort of stuff. So,
I'm getting old, Mark, so I'll be your backup.
you got to pay a crew. We've got a good crew out of Brantford that's been doing this work.
That's great. I love those niche businesses. Terrific. Thank you for sharing that. The picture's worth 1,000 words, so I think that's wonderful.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that you're making progress. Did you want to talk about the volunteer dinner?
Yes, just that we had a wonderful volunteer dinner. Remind me, Rose, where we had it? It was in Newtown.
That was Nostrano's in Newtown.
It's
They used to be,
Go ahead.
they used to be here in Monroe across from the car wash. It used to be BYOB, a very small place, and then they moved up in Newtown and got a liquor license, and they did a good job.
They're in the shopping center just south of Sand Hill Plaza, right across from Button Shop Road.
Yes.
A new shopping center there. Nice food, wonderful turnout. We had a buffet so everyone could just take how much they wanted and what they wanted. That was great. I could get extra sauce on my pasta. You can't put too much sauce on pasta for me.
Very nice.
Yeah, we had 45 folks. It was very well attended, and everyone had a good time. And we also had one of our some of our new broadcasters coming on in early 2024 there. As well as, of course, John and Carol were there, and other broadcasters that have been with us for decades, like Dick Hagman.
Was Monroe Sun there as well? Bill Batar?
Pardon?
Was Bill Batar from the Monroe Sun there as well?
No, we didn't invite him.
Okay.
It wasn't that kind of event to be covered. I mean, I talked for all of 2 minutes at the end. It was just most people had a chance to chat with each other. Sometimes they only see each other during these dinners. If they're on
true.
once a week and they don't follow or go in front of somebody that they can chat with, or they come in extra times during the week, it's one of those occasions where there's important socialization that goes on.
Fantastic.
You were there, Fred.
What's
Were
that?
you?
No, he wasn't.
No, I was ill, unfortunately. It was one of my
That's
not
right.
good days.
And Jane
I
was
was there.
Yeah.
We
It was
did
very
invite the
nice.
WMNR commission.
Yes, thank you. Sorry I couldn't make it. All right, moving on to new broadcasters, Betty and Mark.
Yes, so Betty Morrison, formerly a Stepney Elementary School music teacher, will be starting probably most likely in early January. Mark Coos, a teacher at Southern Connecticut State University, probably won't start until February. Betty's been starting her training already, and Mark will be a quick study since he works with computer audio editing and is a composer and a performer. It won't be hard for him.
Wow. How did you attract them?
We've been running spots on the air, and we do social media spots, and maybe there was a mailing. So we got a few phone calls, and some of them work out, some of them don't.
Excellent. The next section says WMNR strategic study for audience membership, income, and operations started.
Yeah, so I've started a strategic study. It'll be 3 parts. I'm going to present it to each part first to the paid staff, and then I'll present it to the broadcasters, and I'll include a brief summary of the 20-slide presentation to the commission. I'll do I'll just do a one-page summary of it. But the important thing is, radio is changing. But I know from having attended enough meetings with other public radio professionals how people use radio. I want to make sure our broadcasters understand that, and so do others in terms of occasion, the duration, the concept of loyalty, and then the fact that people, are listening more and more on their digitally, whether it's through a speaker or an app or on their computer. So I'll be doing. This will probably take a total of 6 months before I get the last one done. But do each one about it every 2 months, where people will be able to understand how we're doing and our strengths, our weaknesses, some of which we can do something about, some of which we can't. the station is working well, but obviously the use of radio and things is changing. And I just want to make sure everyone's understands it all, because everyone's a shareholder, whether they're a volunteer broadcaster or a staff member, paid staff member, or the WMNR commission member.
But what exactly, how are we doing this? Are you sending out a questionnaire, or are there series?
Well, no, I'm actually consolidating multiple studies for the audience, multiple national studies that have been issued in the last 6 months, so they're current. I'm also parsing out new data that just applies to us. For example, what was it, Friday night, I was online pulling audience reports for 12 classical music stations in smaller markets, and to see how are we doing in a small market compared to somebody in Maine or Oklahoma or in Dayton, Ohio. Could we be doing better? How are we doing? So some of the data is custom, some of it's national numbers with our own data shown is for a comparison. So the number one for audience, I'm just showing you stuff that how people use us, and comparatives in terms of how they use other stations, and in this case, the first part, audience, I'll just be I'm working up a 20 page presentation, 20 graphs. I've got to cull them down to make it short and sweet, but it's a the one thing that's interesting is, with radio, they have listenership based on a sample, roughly about 80 or 100 samples, and they calculate we've got 45,000 listeners. But when it comes to the internet, we actually know more than we should, but we have specific IP addresses. But I'm not going to look into that. They break down cities, states. How many seconds somebody has listened, and in that case, I have to parse and get the big picture, comparing our over-the-air listenership versus our digital listenership. Obviously, we have a lot of people that listen to us streaming in Connecticut, but obviously all the other states other than Long Island or Connecticut where they're listening digitally, they could never get a broadcast signal. So I'm just culling a lot of information and trying to put it all into perspective, and then show how we're doing compared to other stations for our streaming. And so I won't be doing a survey quite yet. That'll come down the line into third part of it. First part will be our audience, how people use us. The second part will be membership/strategic partnerships. The one thing we participate in every year for probably 20 years now is a benchmark. So we put in data on the number of members, the number of listeners, and the size of gifts they give, with no names, just how many major gifts, how many mid-level gifts, how many gifts under lower-level gifts, and we have comparative information with other stations. So I'm able to show how we're doing membership-wise, income-wise, and then also in terms of our strategic partnerships that Bob Anderson's been doing such a great job with. So the second part will be really how the income side of it all. And then the third part I'm still defining, but part of it has to do with the intersection of those two. For example, how much does our streaming cost versus for the number of people that are using it? And to a certain extent, for the non-Connecticut streaming people or the non-Long Island streaming people, we can tell if we're getting money from them or not. And there's no way that they're member because of a broadcast signal. Maybe at one point because people heard us and then they move, or so anyway, the third part will be having to do with the efficiency, the effectiveness, how our operations are doing. And yes, we will then talk a little about, music and first part of what we do, but it's the intersection of the listenership and the money and the efficiency and effectiveness of it all.
Look, let me change. I had to take off my broadcaster hat and put on my commission member hat. for a second, just ask the question, what's that going to tell us? Are we going to change anything from the result of this? Are you looking for answers for anything? I'm asking, as a broadcaster, I don't want to change anything. I like what we do. But as a commission member, I'm asking, what does that mean? Does that mean that you may?
I don't think we have to change anything. I think it would help define what we're doing and what we do well. For example, I've talked to other radio station managers, and they presume that we would perform much better with professional programming, not volunteer programming. But we, of all of the stations that run classical music in the country, as much as we do, 90% or more, none of them except us have a major classical competitor in our own market. So we actually, to cut to the bottom line, the end result will be we're doing well against WSHU. And what are the characteristics that make, and I would like to help define in part 3, what are the characteristics that help define us? Why do people prefer us over to WSHU? And I think it has to do with the personal approach, the sincerity, the range of music, the things we already know. I just want to help define it so that people don't think, okay, well, if all that works well, then I need to go on a 5-minute rant about my favorite piece of music, and that'll get us more listeners. Or we need to play even more weird music, and that'll get us more listeners. So, there's a razor's edge. I don't say it's a razor's edge. It's not that thin, but I want to make sure that I want to try to help define by the first 2 things, and I'm still working on the conclusions for part 3 as to what makes us work well and what we should be doing that. And no real changes. I just want to make sure that we understand what the secret sauce is, and we don't forget about the secret sauce when we're putting our meals together. Musical meals.
As a broadcaster, I agree with you 100%. I think what we do is unique, and you don't find what we do anyplace else.
Yes, but if you were to define it strictly by those terms, Fred, then people could put on all sorts of weird stuff that's super unique. So there's a balance point between unique and not too unique in terms of making people like, well, I don't really want to hear that hour-long work that's really very unique, if you know what I mean. And I have a broadcaster who was last year at the 40th dinner. They came to me and said, gee, I'd like to play this particular piece, which is a really unique piece, which I've gone to and heard in concert specifically because it's rarely done. But it's like a fine, fine wine. I go, now you also have this other time period where at night where you play that piece. And he goes, yes, and that's right. So that's why I let you have that late night time period to do those kinds of really unique pieces. I don't want to hear that in the middle of the day.
Right.
So he asked, and I gave him an answer.
Yeah.
And that, that kind of a thing.
No, I'm as I said, I'm asking if I were not a broadcaster and just a member of the commission, I would be more concerned about, well, what is that going to teach you? Is it going to make improvements or, I
want to help to define it. I want to help to define it. So many people think, like you said, the words you said, people could take the wrong way, and they could push us so far off the edge that we're going to lose, even more listeners and more members, because listenership is going down for all radio stations and classical radio and us, and membership is going down. And so, what do you want to do to fix that? It's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, it's I'm trying to pass some of this information on and to consolidate it and to let everybody see what the big picture is. So no real changes. Help to define it.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, we're a lot of us are in the dark when we're doing this because we're playing music. I confess, I play music that I like. I play music that, somebody asked me just recently, what do you do between 8 and 12? And I said, I'm making brownies. I'm serving pie a la mode. That's what I do. I serve up comfort food. I don't have any agenda. I just like music. And one of my listeners said it best when I told you that story where I played Aaron Copland's piano concerto in 1926. It's about as radical as I get. And Dr. Pearson called me and said, "Why did you do that? I rely on you for beautiful music." And I was like, "Well, thank you, but you're not my only listener, but I understand what she's saying." And so, yeah, most of us don't make waves. I listen to the station almost 24 hours a day, and I don't hear anything offensive or strange. I mean, occasionally we all play something a little weird, but I
Well,
think,
it's interesting. I was in Simsbury on Sunday conducting the Simsbury concert band in Two Pieces of My Father, and one of our a listener was a member of the band or a member of the audience, I don't know which, and she said, "I was just about to lose you up near Bloomfield, but she had to pull over because she didn't know the piece." But it was another piece of Aaron Copland, but it wasn't his piano concerto. It was his music from the film Red Pony, which is not as wild as the piano concerto,
oh no,
but it's not as popular as Appalachian Spring. A lot of classical music listeners know and love that piece. So, it'll how should I put it? That's a case in point. And I'm not asking to. I'm not going to really make. I'm not proposing any changes. I just want to help to define what it is, so people don't get carried away and think, as I've said, that if we do more weird stuff, we'll make more money, or it'll keep us from losing listeners. There's a balance point. And I want to help to define it and explain it and share it and have people understand it.
it makes perfect sense for me as a broadcaster and as a commission member. It makes perfect sense.
And because, in the 40 years,
Yeah.
membership peaked, it's been going down. Our money's been fine because we have more major donors giving than we did in the past. So our budget hasn't really gone down, but we're reliant on major donors who make up a third of our income, which is typical. But at the same time, we're in this day and age when you have a smart speaker and you can listen to any classical station in the world. We're past the automatic glory days. You have to work a little harder. You've got to define what your niche is, and that's what I'd like to do.
It sounds great to me. It's a very mature perspective on. I'm going to call it a business, even though it's not a business, but it parallels a business in terms
of. It's a nonprofit business.
Yeah. Yes. But as anybody that's been in business for decades in a row, it's very easy to get complacent and to go in every day and just do a little more of what you did yesterday and not necessarily be able to describe to somebody what your mission statement is, what your job is, your role is, what your goals are. And this will help firm that up some. And I think as conversation pieces for anybody involved to be able to describe a little bit about what they do and to have in each breath they take a direction that they're following, handed down from management, but also from the rest of the team to kind of know that we're all working together. We're one station and we have a vision. And I think it's beautiful. It's a lot of work, it sounds like. But you have a way of taking on these very large tasks and making sense out of them. And I applaud you for making that effort, because a lot of people just wouldn't be bothered. And
I have to now, because in the old days it was Jane, Carol, and I that helped run things, and now it's Rose and myself, with Jane and Carol having retired. And when I retire at some point, there'll be a lot of bigger picture lost. And so I'm trying to, at my 42nd year, in December, which is we are in now, as manager, it's like, okay, I need to consolidate it. The first 20 years, 30 aren't as important as the last, but I do have data in some instances going back to 84. So I wanted to put it all down to pass it on, because it's the secret sauce, the 7 magic herbs and spices of Kentucky Fried Chicken, whatever you call it. Obviously, the recipe and the taste can change a little from over the decades, but still, there's got to be. I want to make sure that people understand how people use radio. And I think even Fred, I've never done these presentations before about loyalty, time spent listening, the core audience versus the fringe audience. They're fascinating concepts, and they're not isolated because we have comparatives with other stations, and so we could see how our volunteer programming stacks up with the paid pros, and it stacks up very well. But at the same time, you just don't want to let everybody do anything they want,
Right.
so to speak.
And Brian,
in order for me to, and in order for people to understand, well, why is Kurt saying that? You know, it isn't just remember pulling out one or two facts from my head. Like, I'm pulling together all sorts of stuff, and there's some very detailed studies that came out 2 months ago, that came out 4 months ago, that came out a year ago, and some of them 5 years ago, but the data is still relevant, where I'm able to try to get the big picture. And because these things can go on for 20 to 50 or 150 pages, I've got to call them all out, drop in, customize them, and then try to make the points, some of the basic points about how people use radio and how they use it now. Unfortunately, we've got data that's fresh from this summer in terms of public radio listeners, how many are using digital versus standard broadcast and that kind of thing. So, and it's interesting for me to be able to look up some of this stuff and take a look. Back in 2015, I did do a study to see how most of our sites did in terms of attracting membership, but that's 8 years ago. I need to update that data. Some of them make a lot of money, some of them break even, maybe one we lose a little. I'll have to take a look at the data, see how much it's losing and whether it fits in the big picture.
Yeah, so you could easily have the same presentation to the listeners and them not fully realizing that in the background, management has to continue to reinvent the business in order to stay relevant.
I mean, in our case, it's we're not changing what we're doing, but we need to help. How should I put it?
Well, you talked about delivery methods and such, to going through the smart speakers and whatnot. That's a piece of it.
But what I started to say, Brian, one of the things you should be aware of, because we know because we're inside, but there's a lot of communication between the broadcasters now. There's more of us. When I first started, there was a lot of people that weren't there. There were a lot of spaces. Those spaces have been filled in with live people. So now when we get to holidays and different things, there's a lot of talk among us about what we're playing so that we don't do a lot of repetition. Even for Halloween, we had a whole discussion between all of us that were on that particular Tuesday. And that's good for our audience because everybody's listening to each other. Kurt allows us to do that, but we talk to each other so that we know, okay, if you're going to play The Sorcerer's Apprentice, I won't play it. You play it. That's cool. This way we get a day that isn't, the same song played, the same piece played 5 times in a row. But there's a lot of communication going on among the broadcasters. So it's cool that it's good to be part of this. And Kurt, Kurt's like this, he lets us play, but he's also will speak up when something doesn't go right. But it's nice that we discuss it among ourselves so that we all are aware of what we're doing. People sent me their December playlists, because I feature Beethoven, so that everybody put in their, when they were, what else they were playing, and everything. So it's
and I even had another broadcaster that had planned for months to do Beethoven Ninth the same week that Fred was. 5 days later, I go, nothing wrong with that. Won't be the morning, it'll be the afternoon, but no problem.
Yeah, I told him he's far enough away. We're far enough away from each other that if it's played twice, I always try to play it at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year. That's how I.
Now, if he wanted to play the Copland Piano Concerto twice in 1 week, I might say, wait a second, that's too unique of a piece. But Beethoven Ninth, I mean, come on. I know you can't sing along to it really,
right?
But it's such a great piece of music. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's cool because you have a certain amount of freedom, but you also know where you are. So it makes it easier to plan your programs.
So any of the broadcast,
it's another beautiful example as to why we're all.
Jim had a question, Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, any of the broadcasters, some of your programs sounds like they have a theme to it. Now, at one time, I was in this group before, the artistic board. That was a few years ago. I think, Will and a few other people, Betty and I were on it. We were discussing how some of the broadcasters have themes for their show. I don't know whether that's still being carried on or has it been dropped.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's up to each broadcaster, and the problem is you can follow a theme slavishly. Like let's take the Paganini piece and all the different composers that have done variations on it, or it can just be broader, more conceptual. I mean, one of the things I'd like to say is I don't care whether there's a theme or not, just play a variety of good music and don't keep doing one thing for a whole hour, whether it's solo violin or solo piano or I mean, Beethoven Ninth is different. It's such a great piece, and obviously it's an hour long. But I can't say that about all hour-long symphonies, of which I know some of them quite well. So, what I really want to do, encourage the broadcasters, is to try to make a good musical meal with a good appetizer, a good entree, a good side dish, a good dessert, and whether you do that in 1 hour or whether you do that in 2 or 3 hours. I like to have people think of that and remember. Try to imagine. Some people, I think, imagine people, the other listeners, better than others in terms of how it'll come across. But then, as Fred said, his attitude is musical comfort food, and so the most wild piece he does is the Copland Piano Concerto. I mean, for an example, it's an early work of Copland. Back when Leonard Bernstein was a nobody, he was also a very good pianist, and he had memorized Copland's piano sonata. And he would deliberately go to parties, sit at the piano, and play that long, dense work, and knowingly clear the room because it wasn't like, oh, Chopin or whatever. It's just an example of not all Copland's the same, and how far do you want to push it, and where do you want to push it. And I'm not going to tell people. I'm not going to create a list, but I do want to have people think about it and try to get them to remember, who our listeners are. And the data actually shows these are the people that listen to us exclusively. And this is the percentage that choose us more than any other station. And then these are the ones that are third choice, fourth choice, fifth, and sixth choice. I've got numbers to show them. And so, in other ways, then how much listening do they do besides what ranked choice we are for them? But it's an active world, and I want to try to share a little bit. I actually can get detailed tune-in, tune-out information, but not per day. It's like a Monday through Friday. Who's tuning in? Who's tuning out? I'll present some things for broadcasters to realize.
Yeah.
It's dynamic.
To answer Jim's question, one of the things that a lot of us do is look at a calendar, and because it works really well, because somebody's birthday, Bach's birthday happens to fall on a Tuesday, well, then he becomes my featured composer for that day. Whoever it is, if it happens to be Aaron Copland, then Aaron Copland gets played. A lot of his stuff, his birthday actually did fall on Tuesday. But that's one of the ways we develop a theme. A lot of us will look at a calendar and see on the particular day that we're on the air, if it happens to be someone's birthday or some related incident, an opera that premiered on that particular day, or a symphony, people will play that as a way of doing a kind of a theme by looking at the calendar. And there's a bunch of us. I do it, and I know a lot of us do it. Gary Gerard does it. A lot of us do it because it helps to kind of keep you focused. If it's Beethoven's birthday, which we don't know exactly what day that is, if it's Beethoven's birthday, then you certainly want to feature him. And I've been featuring him for the month of December. I've been doing that for 10 years because I don't know when his birthday. I know when he was baptized, but I don't know when he doesn't remember when he was born. So it's always kind of fun. But that's one way we do what would be a theme is by looking at a calendar. And that would tell us something that happened on that day. you know, I just did someone who was born. I forget who it was, but that's how that's a simple way to do it, and it keeps you focused, and it gives you a different approach or whatever. And we're allowed to do that, which makes it work even better. So
Excellent. Jim, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
that's probably more than anyone wanted to know at that point.
I think it was December 16th, Beethoven.
That's when he was baptized, or he was baptized a day or two later, and they assume that it was December 16th.
He was baptized on the 17th.
Oh, that was it.
And they think he was born a couple of days earlier because they didn't let kids sit around in those days. So they baptized him right away. So he probably was born on the 15th, 16th. But I believe he was baptized on the 7th, 1770. And so I use that as an excuse. I don't play him that much during the year for whatever reason, but I do focus on, you know, and Black History Month, and I'm on Fat Tuesday, so I do a lot of stuff, New Orleans stuff and everything, you know, because I'm on those particular days. Fat Tuesday is always a Tuesday, so so it makes it easy.
Well, I enjoyed every second of this part of the conversation, but I think in the interest of the rest of the team, we ought to probably keep moving.
Sorry.
If that's
Sure.
okay.
Oh, of course.
Really did learn a lot there. So the next big section was new business.
So we have to set meeting dates, and then I'll put them on a piece of paper. You'll sign them. I'll get them into the town clerk by Jan 31, so that the meetings we have next month are regular meetings.
Okay, do you have dates you want to propose?
So if we do the first Tuesday in March, it'll be March 5th. If we do the first Tuesday in May, it'll be March 7th. The first Tuesday in September, it'll be September 3, the day after Labor Day, but generally that's how we do it. Then
September what?
So March 5, May 7,
Yeah.
September 3, the day after Labor Day, and then a year from now would be December 5th, would be the first Tuesday in December.
That's what it is today. That same day? Interesting.
And today's December 5th. It was going to be December 3 next year. December 3, 2024. So, Brian, if that works for you, Jim, and Fred, then we could set them.
Just scanning to see if there's any conflicts. I know at this point I don't see any September. December would be the 3rd, not the 5th, right?
Yeah, the 3rd.
Sorry, yeah, December 3. Draw a better 3 here.
I'm okay so far.
Okay, and then we did have a quorum problem earlier this year. Can't remember which one. In which case, then we moved the meeting to like a week or two later. It was a special meeting, which only has to do with the fact that you can't change what's on the agenda for a special meeting. But so yeah, as long as these basically look good, it's something to start with, and we can tweak them later as needed. We move them.
Okay. Anybody have a conflict that they want to speak up now about? No. So thank you
Around
for
Tuesday,
proposing those. I guess there's no vote to be had on that, but you'll
have to sign the form,
Yep.
Brian. I'll get the form to you. Yeah.
Okay. Public participation. We have a smaller group. Jane, Rose, you want to say anything?
I'm all set, thank you.
That'll save about 20 minutes if John's not here, right? We love the things that he has to bring in, but they can be on any topic. Sure.
I did take John last week to Connecticut Broadcast Association luncheon in Rocky Hill. So spent a little time and heard some interesting presentations.
Great. I hope he's okay today. If anybody speaks to him, please send him my regards. I think that's it. Unless there's anything else that we need to cover.
I think it's a record, about an hour.
Wow. So do we make a motion to close the meeting at 8:04 p.m.?
Motion to permanent.
Second that, friend?
Did Jim make a motion? I second it if Jim made a motion.